What is up, guys? It's Sky, and DICE dropped the main patch for Battlefield 1 just yesterday, and I was able to jump on a couple games, try it out, and see how the playing meta as well as the general gameplay meta has changed. The biggest change is the one you see in the gameplay right here. You can now disable the QF1AA turrets, and they have to be repaired to be functional again. I only jumped in a couple games, and I don't know how it's going to be going forward, but as it stands, not a lot of people run the support class, and even fewer people run the repair tool. So I found that as I was playing a game of Conquest on Empire's Edge, leveling on my tanker class, I was pretty much running around the map, and all the AAs were destroyed and no one was repairing them, so I had to pretty much repair them on my own as a tanker class. You'll see in the gameplay here, I destroyed the AA turret on B flag, and that pretty much let me roam about 2/3 of the map freely, and I would periodically keep strafing on B flag and send fire down to the AA turret to make sure that it stayed disabled. As it stands, most people don't play the support class, and it'll be interesting to see if more people will pick up the support class as well as the repair tool to be a team player and repair AAs for the team. Another huge change was the change of the scoring system for Conquest. Previously, the scoring system was the same for Conquest as in Operations, whereas if you capped the flag, you would get 500 capture points. The thing about Conquest is that there's so many flags on the map, and in some games they can change hands pretty frequently. So you would have people running up their score just sitting on flags, just playing musical chairs. You could see a guy that's like 7-15 with like 20,000 points. Now I'm all for PTFOing as much as the next guy. If I'm playing on the ground, one of the things I try to do is I try to get the most flags capped award at the end of the round. But the days of going 7-15 and topping the server through just flag caps alone are long gone. Now skilled players can be more free to do things like neutralize flanks and take out vehicles, and maybe even defend a flag once in a while. Now this change in the scoring system does something for the playing gameplay. Previously, you would have to compete with infantrymen for score, and infantrymen would get a lot of free points by just standing on flags. To top the server in a plane, you either had to get an extremely high volume of vehicle kills and infantry kills, or you had to just get in one of those games where you're lucky enough to where the flags don't really change hands that often. Even in the gameplay you see here, I was running the bomber killer loadout for most of the game. Didn't really rack up the best KD, but I was actually still able to top the server, and that's really something that wasn't possible before. I think this is a step in the right direction to correctly awarding players' contributions to each game. While there was a host of other changes, especially to tanks, I don't really play tanks that much, so I'm just going to focus on the changes to the plane loadouts. There were big tweaks to the attack plane and fighter plane loadout. Changes were made to what DICE calls quote-unquote elevator scaling. Now I don't know what that is, but I know for sure that the fighter plane handles a little better and the attack plane handles a lot better. Now this is a change that I personally agree with. I thought that the attack plane was a little bit too sluggish and needed a buff. This in a way brings the ground support attack plane more in line with what the trench fighter was previously as far as public match Battlefield is concerned. Whereas you have that immense stopping power against infantry, you can farm infantry all game long, but now you actually have a means to defend yourself. Previously I thought that the difference in handling between the attack plane and the fighter plane was too great. It was too easy to counter a skilled attack plane pilot by just jumping in a fighter plane. It was kind of an easy button, and it didn't really take a lot of skill to do that. A lot like the way the AA doesn't really take a lot of skill. So this is a step in the right direction. I don't think it necessarily makes the attack plane OP, as it's pretty hard to hit a pretty good fighter plane pilot using their weaponry. Now if you have a tail gunner, that's another thing entirely. That's one of the biggest reasons that I decided to try the bomber killer loadout, because the emergency repair on bomber killer was absolutely the best thing to give it some more resilience against tail gunners and to be able to escape AAs. So in the post trench fighter nerf era, the bomber killer is probably the fighter plane variant to run in public matches. The icing on top is that you can use the anti-air rockets on the bomber killer to disable the QF1AA turrets. The tank hunter attack plane also received bullet speed and bullet drop buffs to the main cannons. Together with the new and improved scoring system, this may make the tank hunter attack plane a little bit more of a viable option. Being a team player and taking out vehicles is a lot more valuable now that people can't get free points by just standing on flags. All in all, I think this makes the playing gameplay a lot more fun and maybe balanced. Time will tell if people will get wise, start running support, and start repairing AA turrets. The biggest change in the May patch is the one I saved for last, the introduction of the rear cam. Some of you Battlefield 4 veterans are already familiar with this, and the most skilled of you Battlefield 4 dogfighters know how to use this to your advantage. I've only had it for a couple games and I'm still getting used to it, but it's made an immense difference in my ability to engage enemy fighter planes. Really, before, since they took out the air radar, there were so few forms of situational awareness. You basically follow the sound and make your best guess as to when and where to turn. Now there's no more guesswork, and the skill gap is a little wider in dogfighting. Now, I don't think DICE should bring back permanent air radar. Flight in Battlefield 1 is a little more restrictive than in Battlefield 4. In Battlefield 4, a vertical maneuver was almost the same as a horizontal maneuver. Granted that your speed control was good. It's a little different in Battlefield 1. A vertical maneuver is not the same as a horizontal maneuver. I think that the plane physics is a little more restrictive in what counters what. I honestly think it works best without full-time air radar. Or at least that it's really interesting not having it. Of course, this is really only a comparison with Battlefield 4. The only time will tell if DICE will add full-time air radar for the plane gameplay in Battlefield 1. Honestly, this May patch kind of revived my interest in Battlefield 1. It definitely shook things up a lot, and a lot of things that were introduced in the patch were not necessarily things that we've been asking for, but now that I've seen them, I realize that I do want them. So if DICE can continue to implement great changes in the monthly patches moving forward, then I'll be a little bit more hopeful for the future of Battlefield 1. As it stands, I honestly was having a lot more fun with Battlefront last year. At this time last year, we were only a couple weeks away from the second DLC, Bespin DLC, for Battlefront, and I was enjoying the game a ton, even up to that point. I honestly don't feel the same way about Battlefield 1. I don't know if that's me just getting over video games in general, or if Battlefield 1 is honestly a lower quality product. Moving forward, I would like to see DICE tweak the AAs even further, make them more skill based. Like I said before, rock paper scissors gameplay is one thing, but easy button tactics to counter skill by selecting a certain loadout is just not fun. It really just turned into a game of who can run the meta loadout, the flavor of the month loadout. That's really what the trench fighter was, and that's still what the QF1AA is, and especially the anti-air artillery truck. I think balancing the AA artillery truck is simple. Make it so that the driver has to get out, actually mount the turret to be able to use it. That way they'll be vulnerable to return fire, so it'll be a battle of skill versus skill. I'd also like to see tail gunners balanced out to be a little more skill based. Maybe increase the recoil or the spread or the overheat. Right now it's kind of an easy button, and the fact that seat switching is a viable tactic kind of shows you that DICE didn't really put the most thought into this. In addition to that, give the tail gunner a skill-based way to contribute in ways other than just shooting a plane on your tail. Really, there's no point in spawning in as a tail gunner unless you really want to be a team player or you're trying to help someone out. There should really be a skill-based way for you to take out infantry from the tail gunner position to give a skilled player something to do as a tail gunner. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Hope you've been jumping on Battlefield 1 and trying out the planes as well as ground pounding as infantry. There's a lot of changes and it was probably the best patch yet. Now it's on DICE moving forward to continue to work to improve the game, listen to the community, and continue to give us things that we didn't ask for but we want anyway. If you guys don't remember, Battlefield 4 was probably even in a worse state at its launch, and eventually DICE was able to continue to improve Battlefield 4 and make it into one of the best games of all time. Anyways guys, that's my thoughts on the new patch. Thanks for watching guys, stay tuned and I'll catch you later.